All right. What is up, everybody? I hope you are enjoying this crazy NHL slate and, of course, the first night of NBA basketball here.
I
Scott
am
and the Son
not
of Team.
enjoying this crazy NHL slate. It's too much. It's too much.
I know. I wasn't paying attention. I just heard that we're doing games every 15 minutes for every team in the NHL tonight, which sounds like pure chaos
Yeah,
here. But
we do at the end of the night. The last two games are spread out 45 minutes apart, which is a nice little break they give us. But
very
everything
nice.
up till then, yeah, every 15 minutes. So another game is about to start here in 12 minutes. So hopefully my alerts are working if somebody gets ruled out while we're talking.
I am it's funny. I guess there was football last night, but no NBA games last night. You think it might have been a good idea for them to have done this big NHL push the night before NBA tips off for the opening night, but I
I
don't know.
I I don't know what they're. I mean, I get it. Like they want to do something special while they still maybe have a chance to get people to notice because after tomorrow, no one's going to care about NHL again, other than
Yeah.
crazy people like me. But yeah, I wish they had done. They should do this like opening week. I don't know why they don't just do it like the first week of the season, get people really excited. But anyway, we're not here to talk about the NHL scheduling weirdness.
We are not.
No, we're
Yeah.
no.
So I'll let you go ahead and just jump right into it.
Yeah.
We've been working really hard on some big updates to Late Swap. I know we've been teasing it a little bit, talking about it in Discord, in our support channels, things like that. It is up on beta as of essentially us going live here, and we wanted to do a quick video, give Scott the opportunity to talk through it, some of what is new, the inspiration for some of these improvements here, and we're really doing this live. Scott played tonight.
Yeah.
He's got his live entry file here loaded. Wanted to show this, what it actually looks like with a live slate. So we'll stop Jordan and Scott's sports talk radio show, and I will quit yapping as well and let Scott go ahead and dive in.
Sure. So thanks, Jordan. And we'll probably go through a couple different builds here because we've got a lot of different slates going on at the moment. But we're going to start right here with NBA for tonight. And by default, like everything looks like you're used to it looking, right? We haven't changed anything about the core look and feel of the experience. It's when you get into the swap itself where you start to see some differences. So I'm going to just, I'm in my swap build. I've got my 5,000 pool. So this is actually the first change you're going to see right away. We got rid of that swaps per lineup option that we had before, where it would like try to like math out what your pool size should be based on swaps per lineup. So now you can just we start with your maximum pool size. So for ultimate and pro users, that would be 5,000, and then we will try to find as many swaps as we can across all of your lineups to fit that. And we're also not being very rigid with that, so it's not like we're trying to find an even number of swaps per lineup. We're literally just trying to get as many swaps as we can within the limit of your pool, which that alone is a pretty good like a pretty big improvement on the back end of late swap to how we're doing this. So one lineup that may have 150 valid options for it will get those back, and another that only has 3 will get the 3 instead of trying to just find 20 for both of those or something like that, right? Which is, again, we'll do some dialing in of that, but that's going to be a really welcome change, I hope, anyway, for folks. And I will, while this is building, I'll give, oh, that's going fast too. Look at how fast that's going, Jordan. I will give a little bit of background. I think people have probably heard me say this. It's not a joke. I basically push a few buttons and then enter my lineups. So I'm not going to be doing a whole lot of work here within my late swap. I'm going to push a couple buttons and then enter my lineups, but I'll talk about what I'm doing. So my swap is done at this point. Now, what you'll see here, it looks very similar to our current autofill table, right? So the way autofill works right now, where we list your contest, when it was last saved, what entries are in there, entry fees, how you're going to rank, stuff like that. Let me run my contest sims while this is going. And that hasn't changed either. The way you run contest sims, the way you decide if you want to use live sims within contest, all that is still the same. So I'll run those. But while that's happening, I'll talk about a couple of important changes here. You'll note that you don't see any lineups yet. right? They've all been built, but you don't see them yet. Because we are kind of adopting our autofill paradigm here, which is going to fill each contest individually to get you the best lineups for that contest, you actually need to basically swap, like actually literally click the save button first to get your lineups into your contests in the manner in which you want them, with your exposures, with your min uniques, with your ranking method. And it's going to be working similar to autofill, where it's going to get you the best lineup for the contest based on all of the criteria you are applying all at the same time. So if I'm applying let's just say I'm not going to do this because that's not how I roll, like I said, but let's say I want a 50% min exposure to Anthony Davis in my lineups tonight, as an example. I apply that here, and when I save, it's actually going to get 50% of Anthony Davis in every selected contest rather than just across the portfolio, the same way that autofill is working today. If I apply min uniques, it's going to try to apply X min uniques in the contest, not across the portfolio. You can see it. God, it was so fast tonight. The contest sim is finished fast too. So I've got ROI selected, which is going to be my target ROI, my destination ROI, which this is a huge improvement already with the new late swap. It is going to be based on the contest specific ROI when it tries to fill. So it's going to fill NBA 10K Minimax, by that ROI first, then opening tip, then 40K. And if you want to change the order it fills them, you can drag them in any order you want them. So if you're using like a unique method, or you want them to fill in a specific order for some reason, you can change the order of the contest here. But it's going to do them dynamically based on the metrics. And again, it's going to use target metrics for this purpose. Let's go ahead and hit my swap contests here. Give it a second to work. It's going to fill these. It's going to take a second, like it does for autofill. And you notice that I got my thing there. So I now already have a swapped set of lineups I can use. So if I don't want to do anything else, I can just download and be done. If I don't want to do any review or anything, which for NBA is super important, right? I just hit a button and be going. If you get news at 2 minutes before the hour that there's some starting lineup change, or how the Knicks like to do on Sundays, they like to release their starting lineup 3 minutes before lock. This is great for that particular scenario, right? In here, you can actually now see each of the lineups that has been selected for this contest, and underneath that, all of the other candidates for that particular spot. If you want to see which lineups we have basically rejected for that spot in favor of which one we've actually put in there instead. Now, in this case, this highlight means that this was already the original lineup for the contest. So we've made it way easier to find out when we're switching versus when we're just continuing to use the original, because the original is still the best for that entry ID. So here's a case where we have found what we think is a better ROI lineup for this spot versus what was originally in that spot, which is this lineup here that was right there. So really trying to give you more information about which ones we're using. And if you really like this original lineup and want to keep using it, you can just trash this lineup and it'll move the next best lineup into the spot for you if you want to. We've got this table here that you can now much more easily edit to show the information that you want. Unfortunately, we couldn't get our right click working in time for launch today, so it's using this little hamburger menu icon. We will be cleaning this up over the course of the next few days, but for now, you can still edit it through there. We will show you the ROI for the specific contest here. We do have plans to show you ROI change for every lineup, but it's not working all the time right now, so if you see 0% there, that don't worry, we're working on that and we will address that. But you'll actually be able to see the change in ROI from the newly built lineup versus the original lineup in that entry. So in this case, because it's the original lineup, I would expect it to be a 0% ROI change, but we will be showing you that information within the table as we move forward. And you can go through all of these and see all of the lineups we have now selected for these contests.
Real quick. So that ROI change, that is that's basically the new late swap ROI of the lineup that you're going to play minus the late swap ROI, minus the current ROI of the original, not of your
Exactly.
original first build ROI.
Exactly. So when it's
Yeah.
working right, what you will see is this lineup's ROI in this contest compared to the original lineup's ROI from that same entry ID. So think of it as entry ID, right?
Got
So
it.
the original from this entry ID versus the new one from this
Mhm.
entry ID.
Cool.
So you would always expect the original to be 0% change, and then everything would kind of be judged against that as better or worse than the original. So you can make more informed decisions. And in fact, very soon, you notice the only option here is to trash. Hopefully within the next week or so, we will be able to bring back the lock so that you can lock
Cool.
on a entry by entry basis lineups you may want for a specific entry. It wasn't working correctly right now, and we wanted to make sure we got the other big pieces in place first before we brought that back, but it will be back, like I said, hopefully within the week or so. But yes, that's what ROI change is supposed to do. It was actually working earlier. I think maybe there's just a bug with this slate for some reason why it's not working. I don't know what it is because I saw it working just a bit ago. But we'll come back to that in a little bit. But yes, once it's working, that's exactly what ROI change is going to tell you.
Cool.
We also have two new methods for late swap. There's now unique and best. I had best selected. There's a tooltip here that explains them if you forget. But in essence, best doesn't care about finding a unique lineup for every entry. It cares about giving you the best by the ranking method you're using for the entry, no matter if that same lineup was used in a different contest. Basically, it's basically saying once a slate's going on, it's better to just play the best lineup in each entry based on the information you've got, rather than forcing in unique lineups and actually taking an ROI hit to force in unique lineups throughout your portfolio. It will not duplicate within a contest unless it like absolutely has to, because there's literally no options and it's like just a bunch of original lineups. But you should see your original being forced in all cases except for a very rare circumstance where like a player is out and the literal only other option is a duplicate of a lineup that already exists for some reason. But that's a very rare scenario. So we'll duplicate across the portfolio, but not within a particular contest. Late swap unique will attempt to always find a unique first, no matter how bad from an ROI or projected score perspective that may be. For every entry before it falls back to just using the default original lineups. But in the next couple of days, it's actually going to be not fixed, but updated so that it will then just cycle through a second time, a third time, a fourth time, so that it will duplicate less often, but still will duplicate if it absolutely has to, because all uniques have been exhausted for a particular entry. Because think about how late swap works, right? You can just see here as an example, this entry ID here only has 7 possible swap options for it, right? That's what that 7 indicates. If you look, you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 other options within that pool. There are likely many other lineups within your pool that have this same kind of parent group of players that's already been locked from the first game. So all of those parents are kind of sharing this same available pool. So if you work your way through, you may literally run out of options. If fewer swaps were built than there were original lineups that met that criteria. I don't know if you're following what I mean.
Yeah.
But basically, they're in the case of like salary restrictions or players being ruled out, there could be fewer options than there are spots that need to fill those options. So late swap unique will only duplicate if it truly exhausts all options for those seven parent lineups.
And a couple quick things on that. So, I mean, you had mentioned
Sure.
kind of being able to change the order that you're filling your late swaps in. That, at least if I'm understanding correctly, is probably something that only matters for late swap unique.
Correct. Yes,
If
that
you're
would matter
using late
most
swap
for
best,
late
it doesn't really matter
exactly.
what. Cool.
Yes,
and I wanted to also stress here, because I think it is a pretty cool improvement here, and we went kind of quick through it. So the swaps per lineup being a static number has changed. So we're dynamically now kind of deciding on the backside how many times we're going to swap each lineup based on how much salary it has left available, how many individual player spots it has left available. Basically, if you've got 5,000 lineups to work with in your pool, trying to maximize on a per lineup basis, getting as much out of that as possible. Probably the simplest example is a lineup that has a single player left, maybe at min salary, does not need as many swaps to find the best one as a lineup that has a ton of players playing in later games there.
Exactly. Yep.
So cool. There was a quick question. I don't want to throw you off your groove if you had something else you wanted to look into, but somebody had asked about kind of what we're seeing with exposure or original exposure. Some of these columns look a little new here.
So that's what I was going to mention next. So you'll see this new addition as well. So exposure is the exposure of the selected lineups for your late swap. So when you hit save, this will populate with the values of the players who have been selected for late swap based on your other criteria. Original exposure is the exposure from your original lineups that are here. You're going to see a bit of a delta between on mine because I duplicate lineups. I had duplicate lineups in my original pool. So the math doesn't work exactly right between entry exposure and original exposure here. But original exposure is basically for all of the parent lineups, what was the exposure of the player? And then the delta tells you, here's the exposure change in your late swap. So if I were to just download this and upload, I would have a 1% change in my Anthony Davis exposure, and I'd be dropping 4% on LeBron James. That's basically what that is telling me.
That is super cool.
That my new lineups have 4% less LeBron James than my original ones did. Which, if you're using exposure caps or min uniques or things like that, or filters, you may see much wilder changes than I am. I'm seeing very small changes here, which first of all tells me that our original ownership projections were probably pretty good. If my late swap is not trying to change too many players out, like we probably hit that pretty good. There's not a lot of leverage to get in a lot of these swaps. But I would expect if you're making a lot of changes, you will see a bigger delta in these exposures.
Cool. I think this might also be a good opportunity here. I know I'm already seeing some kind of more like technical support type questions coming in here in the chat. Do you want to kind of give your spiel on like where this is at kind of as a product, what we're looking for from people, the best way they can provide feedback, ask questions, things like that as people start to explore here?
Sure. So I would say that it is still definitely in preview mode. I would call it very early beta, where it is usable. I've been using it throughout the week and throughout the night confidently, but also my process is very straightforward. And our team is only so big. We can only test so many different like user scenarios, right? So I think it works, but it has not been stress tested at the edges, because we just can't test all scenarios. So what I would ask is if you can give us a little benefit of the doubt here and truly try to find times during the next week or so where you can use beta with your normal late swap process and tell us where it falls apart. Those bugs and that feedback would be incredibly valuable to us, because we just can't test because we don't know what everybody's process is, right? I know that it works happy path, for the vast majority of scenarios. What I don't know is how it works if you're trying to apply big exposure caps or big amounts of min uniques. It is going to work better than late swap has worked before for situations like that. And the thing is, I don't want to put down our product too much. A lot of times late swap wasn't working and you just didn't know it. I'm going to be completely blunt about that. Like, it truly was not working, but because you didn't get errors, you didn't realize that it wasn't working very well. This option right here, just late swap best alone, I think is going to ensure that it works better every time than it ever has before. Unique will basically work the way late swap has worked in the past. That is kind of like the old late swap, where it's trying to find a unique lineup for every scenario. It should still work better because we will show you what's happening for every spot, and you should see which lineups are going where. So you will be able to see where problem areas might arise from not having enough. Like you may get to the bottom here and realize, oh, I had to use my original lineup for every entry here because there were no unique lineups left for the quarter jukebox, as an example, right? That'll give you that information that, oh crap, maybe I should dial back my min uniques or fill contest by contest, or switch to best for this contest or something like that. It'll give you information that you can use to better make your swap decisions. But I'm going off on a tangent. The point here really was to say that I would consider it very usable, working very well, but with rough edges that we definitely need to iron out, that we need that feedback from in the beta channel. And don't be offended or alarmed if I don't respond to every piece of feedback. It becomes impossible to respond to everyone, but know that we are in fact documenting them, and we will be looking at the particularly feedback that is like bugs with it. If it's like, I wish it worked this way, I think it's less likely we will immediately jump on that. We're going to focus on things that are literally not working right first before we focus on like quality of life improvements.
I am curious, like if there's anything that we did notice on production that we kind of want to call out as NBA ramps up here. Like you had mentioned that we had uncovered some potential other issues that we had fixed with this update here. Anything you specifically want to just mention for people to be aware if they are falling back to even the production app or anything like that?
I think we addressed two of the big ones, which were, like I said, the way that we are more dynamic about how we set up the pools is definitely an improvement over how we were doing things in production. So you will probably see you'll be getting more lineups back and a more diverse, and more for certain parent lineups than you were ever getting before, which we already talked about. I think the late swap best will fix a lot of problems with lineup selection, like we were talking about. I think the third thing that we didn't really touch on yet, but that I think is important, is that we are essentially always forcing in the original lineup now. So you will always know what the original was, which doesn't sound like that big of a change, but it does ensure that every entry gets a swap, which will also, it may not make logical sense, but when you're particularly if you're using like unique, but also if you're using best, it will reduce instances where players who are out are not removed from your lineups, which has been an issue in the past as well. The technical reason for that goes back to what we were just talking about, Jordan, where we don't often return enough lineups back to fulfill all of the parents, which leaves lineups, particularly at the bottom, with their true originals, which have the out players in them. And there truly were not options to swap them out. This alone, this best, should ensure that is almost never, except in the case where the original that has the out player could not be swapped for some reason, which might be, again, a salary issue or something like that.
Cool. I'll call out this question real quick and then give you it back here, Scott, to show anything else you wanted to do here. I think that this is a good idea, Rinpack, here, that like late swap best is probably going to make more sense on swaps that have few remaining games and smaller slates, period. With as new as this is, I'm seeing some of this here for almost the first time here. I think we'll probably have some better prescriptive strategic advice for how best to use this as we go along here. But I think you've got the right idea, and that's kind of what's in my head as well.
I'm not going to begin to even try to figure out the optimal strategies yet. I don't think we really know. I think what we do know is that these are probably the two ways, and maybe there are others, but these are probably two primary ways you should be should be thinking about swapping, right? Either just the best option for every lineup, or trying to get unique whenever you can. I can't imagine that maybe there's other ways that are like a bit more nuanced, but from a blunt force perspective, I think those are the two ways you can most expect to swap, right?
Right. Yeah. Do we have a swap window that you had wanted to update for
well,
here so we could see it one more
we
time, or what do you think?
actually, so not a swap window, but I do have to make a change at the 8 o'clock late slate because the goalie is out. We're gonna see if we
Okay,
can do this really fast.
cool.
It'll let me show you some changes to the regular build screen as well. So let's do a real quick build here for NHL. Hopefully we can get it done. We've got 3 minutes. It's gonna be a rush.
It's about
Well,
when you
actually,
start building anyway, isn't it?
Ullmark is for Ottawa, so we
15.
technically have 15 minutes. So, but we're going to try to get it done now. So we're going to build our 5,000 lineups. I apologize if I focus on getting my entries in first before I talk, but I just want to make sure I get this in before. But this is going so. I've been using a development environment for so long, Jordan, that is very slow. That seeing the speed again is making me so happy. It feels so good to be back where the speed exists. You'll actually see the big change I was going to talk about here, though, is we got rid of those terrible accordions. Hopefully you don't love the accordions, but and now we've moved kind of the lineups pool saved and trash along the top to be consistent with basically all of the other screens in the app. It's still the same information, right? So here is lineups. Here's my pool, where your ability to download. Here's where my save goes. Here's where my trash goes. So there's no changes to the data. It's literally just giving you more usable space to see lineups here, and then moving the pool and stuff across the top. No like actual functional change. Autofill is no different at all. Autofill is the same. But this is one change that we did make, was to kind of move to a tab-based navigation, which hopefully isn't too much of a big change for folks. But if it is, I apologize, but we're trying to get away from using those accordions wherever we can. So you may see them start to disappear from other places in the app as well.
Cool.
Just going to let this sim complete. We got 60 seconds. It's going to be a race. Think we can do it?
It is going to be tight.
And we are not even going to look. We did. Okay. Save.
Your sim's done.
We've got them ranked. Good. Boom. We're done. So I've got DraftKings open down here. Sorry, it's not on my screen, but I assure you I'm uploading. Boom. We got it in. We're good. I'm pretty sure that I had that. I'm all good on the main slates. That change came in early today. I just hadn't updated these lineups all day. But yeah, I think I'm trying to think of anything else that we just pushed that is like of critical importance. I will note, I guess we didn't talk about these tabs along the top.
Yeah. Let's
swap.
Let's touch on those.
Them. So these are really just going to try to communicate to you like the status of what we built for you. So requirements met, you can see here by the tooltip, basically means the swaps met the settings that were requested. So we were able to swap based on your salary restrictions, exposures you set, things like that. If any of your swaps failed, because like that would be the case we just talked about, Jordan, right? Where the original player couldn't be removed for some reason. The out player couldn't be removed, because of your restrictions. Any swaps that failed would go there. Like literally we couldn't fill them. And then lineups you've trashed go there. We are actually going to add a fifth, math is hard, option here at some point soon, I think, where if we have to make an exception to your requirements, like for instance, if you set a min exposure of 50%, right?
Yeah.
But we could only actually get to 40% of a specific player. You may see contests where that was happened in like a separate column here called exceptions. But right now we're just going to try to meet as close as we can the exposures that you recommend or you requested, just like we've always done, which, as I think everybody should know at this point, with late swap can sometimes be much more difficult than it sounds to do in all cases.
Cool. So it sounds like exceptions is kind of a little bit of a softer fail than like a failure, which is like we literally could not.
Yes, failure. We literally could not swap, give you any valid options for this swap.
Got it.
Let's see. We are working on some changes to the contest page as well to give you more options in how you swap. They are not ready yet, so you won't see any. Contest is exactly the same right now. Some of the more exciting things with that, I think, are going to be the ability to select individual lineups to swap rather than contest by contest. So if you want to only focus on some of your lineups, maybe those that have the best chance of winning, you'll be able to select just those. Or if you want to try to just focus on those that are kind of like really like struggling to see if you can just get them across the cash line, you'll be able to do stuff like that as well. So that will be coming soon, along with, like I said, more data about your lineups, like how many locked players there are in every one of your lineups, what their current actual score is, things like that. But I'm not ready to reveal those yet because that work is still ongoing. Hopefully, we'll be on beta before the weekend, but knock wood, I'm not actually committing to that yet. Just hoping that will be there by the weekend.
Cool.
I think that's just about everything. I'm sure people will find things that maybe I've forgotten to mention, but yeah, those are the big ones. So yeah, like I said, keep running your swaps, get us feedback in the beta channel. I hope you do feel like you can use this tool and are able to find success with it and don't have to go back to production. If you obviously, like, I don't blame anybody who feels like they need to use production for some reason. You know, you've got a process that you don't feel comfortable, but I will say again, the only way that we will be able to fix late swap for your process is if you use beta. Again, tomorrow night is like 100 NBA games. Maybe you don't feel comfortable doing it on a slate with 100 games. What is it, like 11 or 13 games or something like that?
It's a big
Maybe
one.
you don't feel comfortable doing it there. But as we get these 2-game slates or 3-game slates or an NHL slate or something like that, an NFL slate that's like
lends itself well to that too.
NFL, a good one. Please let us know how it works for you, and especially if you do just feel comfortable trying it. And the other thing is, I think you won't run into too many issues going back and forth between beta and prod here.
Cool.
So if you create a build here on beta, you're unhappy with what you're seeing or what's happening, I think you should be fine to switch back to the regular app and run your contest sims. I don't even think you need to run your sims and build again. You should be able to go use your process again on prod without it breaking anything. I look, I might eat my words on that. Maybe I'm wrong, but I think it should work. The only challenge you're going to have is this method. I think prod will just know that there's only one late swap method for prod. But if you run into any issues, obviously let us know. But I would, like I said, if you don't mind just trying it and letting us know how it works, I'd really appreciate it.
And I mean, I think it's worth it. I mean, the dynamic number of swaps per lineup, the ROI by specific contest when we're filling, and these new fill methods, like being able to kind of go back and forth between unique and best as needed, like those three already seem like home runs to me. Like, I'm already very excited to try it. Those seem like huge improvements to kind of what was going on there before. So
yeah, I completely agree.
Well, we will let everyone get back here to their evenings. Thanks for tuning in and hanging out with us here. Again, this is up on beta.sabersim.com. If you want to check it out, if you're on a pro or ultimate plan, you do have access to these early access type features and updates here. So please give it a shot. Give us any feedback, ask any questions, report any bugs in the beta feedback channel in our Discord server. I am sure you'll run into a few here. This is probably the freshest we've ever done video content here for a new feature. Scott literally pushed this to beta and we hit record or we hit go live here. So this is pretty fresh, but these guys have been working super hard on it. We're really excited about it. And we wanted to show people what was going on here and how some of this stuff works. So Scott, any final thoughts here before we call it a night?
I guess just if anyone has like just jumped in and caught the end of this, I want to reiterate, again, strongly that this is truly a early beta experience. So you're not obligated to use it. If it's not working, switch back to prod. It's totally fine. You won't hurt our feelings or anything like that. But I just want to be very mindful of saying that this is truly a beta experience still. And no one is forcing you to use it if you really don't want to. So please don't think that like you have to use it or otherwise you're going to get terrible lineups or your swaps won't be good or anything like that. I just want to be very, very clear about that. Like, please you won't hurt my feelings if you switch back to prod for these slates. I assure you.
Awesome. Cool.
Cool.
All right, guys. Well,
All right.
thanks everyone for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.